I'd like to call the regular meeting of November 25th to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Mr. Kudrick.
Yes.
Mrs. Bowles.
Here.
Mrs. Kraut.
Here.
Ms. Buckley, absent excused. Ms. Funderburg, absent excused. Mrs. Beard.
Here.
Mr. Theed here.
Okay, could everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussions on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussions of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda, but I have a question about item D.
Item B?
B, sorry about
Okay.
that.
Support.
Okay, a motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mr. Theed. Discussion, Mr. Kudrick?
Yes, for the bills for payment, I got a few checks I'd like to have pulled from there, please, and I'd like to discuss them.
Okay, just list the check numbers, so you
Okay,
know.
first one is check 208025. I'd like that check pulled from the disbursement until further research is done on it to find out why we're paying that rate. Check 208151, I would like that check pulled and voided. Nobody else in the district is getting that opportunity. There's no special groups in our district. Everybody's treated fairly. If the unit wants it, they can fundraise for it.
What is that? Who is that for?
The 208151 is submitted by Wade Cook, Coach Wade Cook, for track.
Okay.
They want to take delivery now.
I
for
just
it.
wanted to know who it was for, that's all.
And
okay.
then
What was the other one?
208025 is for Miss Blanchard.
And that's just for research, right?
Yes, there was a question that arose after I was supplied some information on it. Ms. Bostidas is checking into that, and she'll let us know
So
more.
the amount of bills for payment will be changed then, right? Do we have a new amount? Right, now I can figure it out, I think.
Be roughly about $300 left approximately.
Do you have the amounts of each of those individual checks?
The 208025 I don't, but the 151 is $195.
Do you know what they are, Anna, the other one?
I can find it for you real quick.
I just want to have for the total amount in the minutes.
$244.84.
You say 94 cents?
84 cents for the 208025.
What was that number again, Dr. Daniels?
For the 208025, it's $244.84.
Minus 195. It was 195 even, Tom?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the new amount for the minutes will be 3,801,338.84.
338.
338.84. Okay, and I'll read the approvals. I have a motion by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mr. Theed. We're going to remove check numbers 208025 and 208151 from the bills for payment. Item A is to approve the minutes of the Board of Education of the special meeting of October 22nd, 2013. Regular meeting of October 28th, 2013, regular meeting of November 11th, 2013, and special meeting of November 18th, 2013. Item B, to approve the personnel actions as submitted by Rebecca Peck, Director of Human Resources, termination of 2 secretaries, leave of absence of a teacher, retirement of a bus driver, bus aide, resignations of Director of Special Services, bus driver, a latchkey aide, and I believe the last one, is that a bus driver also? And another bus driver. Approval to approve the bills for payment as submitted by Paula Daniel, Superintendent, in the amount of $3,801,338.84. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The next item on our agenda is report of the superintendent.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight we have Mr. Dave Fisher here. He is with our accounting firm, and he is going to be presenting or providing our audit presentation.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
I don't think you got it on. Top button on this side, sir.
And you can take it off, Dave, if you want.
You can take it out of there if you like. No, on the microphone, right where your hand. There you go.
Everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Dave Fisher with Raymond Robson, CPA firm that conducted the audit for the year ended June 30th of 13. And want to go over the highlight of the audit that looks like this. I'm going to be referring to certain pages in here. There's a lot of information in here, and I'm just going to point out what I think is most important to you. Pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report, and that's really the culmination of what we do in an audit. We report on the financial statements that are internally prepared by the business office. We independently audit those numbers of the funds that are prepared in accordance with the Michigan Department of Education guidelines and chart of accounts, which you are following. And we also, of course, look at your internal controls, the key areas of the cash receipts that you have, decentralized and centralized payroll systems, the purchases, accounts payable, and disbursement systems as well in our audit. Pages 6 through 12 is a section of the audit that's prepared by management that more or less in paragraph form indicates why things happened the way they did during the year. It more or less supplements some of the financial statement numbers that are reported in these underlying financial statements. So it's supplementary information. A lot of the data comes from the financial statements, and the final page in there indicates, as management points out, the outlook for the future. If you want to go to the governmental funds that you have, on page number 20 is a summary of the revenues and expenditures of those funds. And of course, the general operating fund is the largest operating fund of your district, as it is in most of the local school districts in Michigan. And in that leftmost column, in this very condensed summary, you can see total revenues, $32,916,000. Total expenditures, $37,815,000. During the year, as I look at the third caption from the bottom, there was an excess of expenditures over revenues of $4,717,000. That, when combined with the beginning fund balance coming into the start of the year of $2.393 million, end up with $2,323,000 deficit. As you know, you are in a deficit for the fiscal year ended June 30th of 13, for which you have filed a deficit elimination plan back in August, and then another revised one later on. And so hopefully with the actions that you've taken, and there have been difficult decisions been made, on some of the cost cutting, with the reduction in the student level that you've had, 2013 compared to 2012, there's about 340 less students, and when you multiply that by the foundation allowance, it comes out to a pretty big number, and that's a result of the reduced revenues that you have. And you have reduced expenditures, but not as much as the decline in revenues during the year, and you thus have this deficit, which a lot of districts, 12-13 fiscal year in Michigan, are in a deficit situation. You're not the only ones, and the important thing is to get out of the deficit, and you've taken steps to do that by the worksheets that you have in this deficit elimination plan, and certain things that have been done effective November 1st. You approved a contractual custodial and maintenance agreement, and effective December 1st, you've approved a contractual transportation agreement, and hopefully these savings will, as they extrapolate over the next few years, that combined with some other cuts that you have made, and hopefully the drop in the student level will decline, and the state, which is a big factor in the foundation allowance, as you know, will provide funding that's commensurate with your increased cost. But until then, you're facing some very difficult decisions right now, and you do have that deficit situation in that general fund. That is the only fund that is in a deficit. The other funds have positive balances, and that is good news. Now, to look at the general fund in connection with the final amended budget, that is on pages 22 and 23, where the leftmost column there is the original adopted budget, again, of revenues and expenditures. Revenues come first. You can see the actual amount that is audited in that third column from the left, but the final amended budget is in the second column over from the left. And over on page 23, again, you see the reduction in fund balance, actual of $4,717,000. That compares with a final amended budget number of $5 million that you expected to drop in fund balance when you made that final budget amendment for fiscal year 13. So actually there was a favorable variance compared to the budget of about $324,000. But still, the actual number, you have that $2.3 million fund deficit. You do certainly have other funds, and those are presented back on pages 44 and 45. And you're required by the Michigan Department of Education to keep track of certain activities in separate self-balancing funds. And you do have the food service fund on that left column there. The total revenues, $1,605,000. Expenditures of $1,671,000. For the year, you're left with a fund balance of $39,000. Community services, there's not much activity in there. I think most of those operations are being now accounted for in the general fund. But you do have a series of debt service funds, the 2001, 2003, 2006. Any fund balances here are, of course, dedicated to retirement of principal and interest on the related bond issues. And you, of course, levy property tax monies in order to cover each annual principal and interest payment on those issues. You do have a capital projects fund. That final fund over there, you've got a balance in there of $57,000.
Sorry, I wasn't able to get that. Let's talk later.
$57,000 at the end of the year in that capital projects fund. So of course, you set that money aside for capital projects within the district. One good note in the footnotes are part of the financial statements. I'm just going to hit one. Explains the long-term debt of the district. Over on page 35 is kind of a summary of the long-term indebtedness that we do have. And during the year, there was a reduction in total long-term indebtedness by you paying off the scheduled principal and interest payments during the year in accordance with the amortization schedules, the scheduled payments, and then also doing a refunding of a bond issue and saving present value savings of the cash flow for the future principal and interest. You were able to reduce the total long-term indebtedness of about $1.3 million, starting from the start of the year until the end of the year, total principal balance. We do, as part of our audit, and quite a good portion of the audit when we came in and did the field work, which was started in August, continued throughout. And we do a lot of work with the federal programs. Because you receive over $500,000 worth of federal program revenue, you're responsible, or the audit firm is responsible for conducting a single audit. And most districts have a single audit because that level, that includes the National School Lunch Program, the Title I. You have a SIG grant here. That all collectively is, of course, over $500,000. And the report on the federal awards is presented back pages 52 through 55 is a summary of all the federal financial assistance. And you can see all the programs listed, starting out with the National School Lunch programs. And the next page, get into some of the title programs. And collectively, over on page 55, federal expenditures column, the second column from the right, is the total of federal dollars that runs through the district. $4,869,000 collectively total runs through the district. And the major programs of the federal awards have to be tested for compliance areas, not only the financial part of the, to make sure that the funds are correctly recorded in the funds and there's proper authorization for the expenditures, but there's 14 areas of compliance for each major federal program. For example, you have to have eligibility requirements. For example, in the National School Lunch Program, they have to meet the eligibility requirements for families for getting free and reduced lunches. Period of availability, making sure that the expenditure is charged in the proper budget period for that particular grant. Special tests. There's a lot of other areas that have to be tested. So $4,869,000. And the good news, as presented in the reports that follow, pages 57 through 65, is that there are no question costs, nor are there any costs recommended for disallowance. And that is very good. You know, you've got the SIG program this year and the Title I, and they all have different complicated areas of regulations, and especially Michigan Department of Education has come down hard on districts with their time reporting for people charged through the federal programs, but you have implemented proper procedures for documenting the time using semi-annual certifications where required, or the PARs, and that is very good because there's a lot of districts that haven't followed those regulations, and the MDE is asking for those monies back. If there's anything related to time reporting that has to end up in a finding, they want it to be a question cost, and the Department of Education, Title I Department, is asking for the monies back. So they've retrieved thousands of dollars back from Michigan school districts over the last year and a half. Used to be they didn't do that. The federal government is coming down hard on all these states, and they're implementing these procedures. You don't have any problem here with that. You're following the proper procedures, and there were a couple issues a couple of years ago with the time reporting, but you've corrected those over the past year and a half, and that's good news. There is one finding back regarding a single audit compliance finding, looking at the on-site reviews for the federal programs, page 65. And there was one school that didn't have its on-site review conducted before February 1st of the year. There was only one school. All the other ones were conducted before February 1st, which is a requirement under that. Unfortunately, when there's only one instance of non-compliance, the standards now indicate that you have to put them in the report. You know, it sounds kind of harsh, but that's the way it is. But I don't think this is any problem. I think it was just an oversight for that particular school. There was one financial statement finding on page 64. There were some material audit adjustments, and these have to be also reported when there is this particular condition. One was an amount of $627,000 to adjust a liability account downward is actually overstated, and an audit adjustment required that to be reflected at the proper balance. There was another audit adjustment too. So hopefully these adjustments will all be made at the end of the closing process. And I know that you did have a transition in the finance office. Has actually started right before the end of our audit field work. And but hopefully, and I'm confident that in next year that these things will all be taken care of and everything will be closed out effectively. So overall, deficit fund balance in the general fund and the deficit elimination plan has been filed, and we're confident that over a period of a couple years that you'll be able to get out of that deficit with the tough actions that you are taking. Now, there is a separate letter in the form of a management letter it looks like this. The first 3 pages of it is pretty much standard language about what we're required to report to the oversight body of the audit process about what an audit is. Already explained that. Report on the fairness of the financial statements, looking at your internal controls. If there were any disagreements with management, we're obligated to talk about those. You have to communicate this stuff either in written form or orally. We like to do it in written form because you can read everything right there. It talks about audit adjustments. I've already talked about those. That was in the other report, in the financial statement report. And any difficulties in doing the audit. There were no difficulties in doing the audit. So the first 3 pages are pretty much standard language. The second part, through attachment number A, deals with any internal control issues. And over the last couple of years, notice that you have made some enhancements in the internal controls by having 2 people involved in key processes, like payroll, reviewing the payroll register, somebody independent of the payroll person signing off on the payroll register as another check for that. and that has been corrected. But we have, this year, for June 30th, 13, on page A1 there, the federal policies and procedures. And this is something that the Michigan Department of Education is interpreting a federal guideline that says all school districts that receive federal dollars, and that would include yourself, should have written federal policies and procedures documented. Now, you are operating under these policies and procedures, but you don't have anything, formally written
In our board policies.
packet. And so we're just recommending that you get this. Other districts have gotten this, and you're still trying to get this. And we'd like to see you get this because you might be in danger of not receiving any federal funds if they want to pursue this. So we urge you to get this federal policies and procedures. It doesn't include just the basic internal controls of your main areas, the accounts payable, cash receipts, and payroll, but it includes these 14 areas of compliance that are summarized of this single audit for the compliance supplements that are out there, for Title I, and there's things that have been written that include, so you don't have to have different policies for each program, but policies that will cover all of your federal programs for those 14 areas, eligibility, Davis-Bacon Act compliance, right on down the line. So we urge you to get that in place. So with that, that is my report. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Kudrick.
Going back to page 65, sir. You said that we were basically dinged on not complying to having all of our buildings having a review of each building prior to February 1st, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and from what I'm reading here, that fell under the food service program?
Yes.
Okay, and what you're putting down here, the person responsible was the food service director, was responsible for that? Okay, and that's a contracted position. Are they up for renewal this year? And we have a third-party person working in our building and can't stay up to standards on stuff, and we're gonna get dinged for it? I hope that's noted when it comes up to bid process in June. Thank you.
I have a question,
Yeah.
Mr. Fisher. On page 8, I was looking at the government activities, and it says the total net position deficit, and for 2013, it's got the $36,177,649, and then the difference of that from 2012 was the $30,868,857. And what I'm trying to find out is, based upon that and looking at page 34, which at the top it says notes to financial statements about accounts payable and accrued liabilities, and the government activities are as follows, and it's talking about the vendors, and I'm trying to find out, normally liabilities are things like we owe, am I correct?
Yeah,
Help me,
accounts
like
payable,
credit cards, things
Yep,
like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Recorded at the fund level. Yep.
Okay, so what I'm trying to find out,
Accounts
that
payable.
$4,962,005, is that all, is that part of that,
That's only one determinant of,
Okay.
there's several different asset classifications, starting out with cash, account receivable, and the biggest receivable you have is from the state of Michigan for the July and August payments that you receive.
okay,
It goes right on down the line. And these, in the MD&A, it's talking about the government-wide financial statement, which is a full accrual basis of accounting, where they take all your funds, and then they include the fixed assets, all the buildings, less depreciation, less all the long-term debt you have, and come out with a number.
okay,
And for a lot of districts, it's a negative number, because their long-term debt, if they're in the school bond loan program, exceeds the depreciated cost of their asset.
Okay.
Quite frankly, not as much attention has been put on that government-wide financial statement analysis. You were the $34 million. Because the state, they don't look at that number as a deficit, because
Okay.
they know that, you're not going to sell your fixed assets for cash,
Okay.
and you're not going to liquidate your bonds payable in the next 60 days.
Okay.
Still, most attention is put on the funds, and that's why I covered the funds.
Okay.
Because that's the way you budget, and that's what the Michigan Department of Education and Treasury looks at if a fund is in a deficit, the fund level. This other reporting is just another way to look at everything. If you put everything together, how does the district look?
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I just want to find out, is that amount that's there, is that part of that 36 million? That,
Well, yeah, well, that would
that's a
serve.
part of it?
That's part of it, yeah. The greatest part would be the long-term liabilities. The bonds payable is a liability too. That's about $89 million, plus $4 million of accrued. But then you've got on the other side, cash and receivables, and the net difference is the $34 million.
And I guess what I'm trying to find out, if that's the case, then where's the difference from that? Where is that coming from, like in our area? Because that's only $4,962,005.
Okay.
So where's
Okay.
that other part coming
I'll show you
from?
the page that presents that,
Mhm.
and maybe you can look at it that way.
Okay,
It's up near the front.
okay,
It's called the statement of debt position, the entity-wide. And this
Okay.
is part of gas governmental accounting 34, page 15.
okay.
And this is the statement of net position where you put all the funds together, and then you put all the fixed assets as assets.
Okay.
And you show the long-term liabilities as liabilities.
Okay.
And that's in the long-term debt section, what, that $89 million that you have
Okay.
there. The fixed assets that you have, the buildings are up under there. And that account payable and accrued liabilities that you saw in the note, there's that number, the first item under liabilities.
Okay.
So that's just one element. The
Oh,
notes
okay.
just give in more detail
I see
the
the whole
different
thing.
elements of for example, it goes right down the line, cash, fixed assets, receivables, and that gives a little bit more detail about what makes up those balances.
Okay. And then I just have one other question. Now, you were saying we needed to put together a federal policy and procedure predominantly packet or document,
Yeah,
correct?
written
Written
form.
document.
That's the MDE interpretation, yes.
So is there somewhere where we will have some sort of a template that's
Yep,
already
yep,
made that we can
yep.
just
Yeah, these
critique?
districts
for
have-
us?
Have already done it. Actually, our firm has done this for districts. We got somebody put together a template
Mm-hmm.
that has all this, and we tailor it to their already existing procedures that you have, because you're unique from Taylor schools as far as the accounts payable and their purchasing. But all the other thing for the federal policies and procedures is going to be the same for everybody.
Okay.
So we've taken that, and it's comprehensive, and then being able to tailor it to each individual school district. We don't have the only one. There's other places that have it as well. But because we've given ours to a lot of districts, we're able to pass it along just a nominal cost for it,
Okay.
for doing this for our school district, as
So
a
that's
service to our schools.
That's an additional cost to the audit
It
itself.
is, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Approximately how much would that be? Could you, I know you can't give us a
A
ball.
ballpark would be $800 to $1,200.
Okay.
That's what the other, that includes the cost of tailoring it to each individual school, plus the amortization of that initial cost that we had to get the template together.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I gotta just declare clarification on something in my head. If I could take it at like 20 and 22, I know this ends in June of 2013. When was this completed?
The audit,
Yeah.
the field work was completed towards the end of August, early September, and then, of course, there's a lot of things that you're waiting for confirmations to come back in, and by the time that's all done, and, we did have some issues with the different people transition in the finance office, so that took a little bit longer this year for your district to get everything out, but I think we completed everything. Well, it's by the date of the report, and that would be October 30th of 13 is when we got everything done, and that's the date now of audit reports is when everything is completed. It's not when the field work is complete, it's when we've got the last thing, confirmation and representation letter from the client.
And was the DEP, did that help figure in here at all, the deficit elimination plan? Was that figured in here at all for the numbers?
Well, no, because these are all historical numbers, so, the revenues and expenditures are what they are, but we did put in the notes the fact that you do have that deficit elimination plan. I think it's the final note about where you're at on that, and the fact that you do have a deficit and what you've done in order to try to rectify that deficit.
So, I mean, I see different pages with the same heading. I'm looking at something that we received in September 25th for our deficit elimination plan. Like, for example, the cost of people transportation, and here it's a, $400,000 difference, where here our total revenues are 35,000 or it's 32,000. Over here it's 33,000 on this page in another month, and it's total like, 39 million here, 37 million here, and 32 million here on this sheet.
Yeah.
So why do we have those big differences, and what's taken out or what's taken in that these are different? If you're doing this thing and it didn't get completed October 30th, when a lot of this stuff that we got in September was finalized, how come the numbers in this plan is higher? And I'm showing like a 4.8 or 4 million, almost $5 million difference. And all these numbers, why is the total revenue on one page different than the next page? And, I see people, transportation, maintenance, operations, business services, general administration, and the numbers variation on all different categories from month to month.
Are you looking at yeah, those are actual numbers for the year ended, based on your chart of accounts and the numbers that were audited. And also uploaded to the MDE, and, what you're comparing, whoever prepared that, would probably know what the differences are. If they're comparing the same years or periods, I don't know.
I mean, it's just a matter of a different couple months.
Should be able to explain it, but without, analyzing it, I can't help you now, but somebody.
I mean, yeah, I would hope somebody can, because I can't explain it. I mean,
Get your questions, and then we can, maybe between.
I can
Mike
formulate a
Dixon
question
and-
and get some answers.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying,
Okay.
and then I could submit them, get them to Mike Dixon,
Yeah,
because he's
yeah,
the only
that-
person that
okay.
we have to answer them.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
that'd be the best way to do it.
Fair enough.
Surely, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know where the difference, where did all this money projected in June 30th, but yet this thing get complete October 30th after these cuts were made, so why is it higher in October 30th when it wasn't here? So why is there a difference of $5 million somewhere? And why is every category is different?
Well, it looks like it's looking at different data.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
am
it looks
looking
like
at
you're
different
looking at
data. So,
something
okay,
completely
so I
different.
formulate a question for Mr. Dixon?
Yeah,
get
I
an
would,
answer?
I mean, he would be the person to answer it, I would think. I mean, we don't have anybody on
Right, I
staff to
understand.
do it, so.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I'm gonna make a note so that I have it too.
Yeah, yep. I know my math might be wrong, but.
Any other questions? If not, we'd like to say thanks to the staff that were courteous and professional to us in our examination, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Was the September debt breakdown, John?
Yeah, one was the September 25th, one was October.
September debt.
Thank you very much. As the board has received notice that we did get our deficit elimination plan approved. So, we're really happy, about that. Now, we dig in our heels to make sure that we implement in a way that we will in fact be able to come out of deficit in the 2 years. The overall review was that we are going to be making sure that we take a look to maintain our enrollment, continuing to do our cost containments. Our monthly reviews will begin. The first report will be due December 31st. So we're going to be getting started on that, right away, to make sure that we do everything that we need to do to get out as expediently and in a fashion that will ensure that we are able to remain a viable district. And all of the information, including the plan, will be posted on our website. So we'll be bringing the board the monthly reports to make sure that everyone can see what we're submitting on that monthly basis.
Also gonna do public relations, right?
Yes, you mean for the
For the debt approval, you're going to do?
yes,
the-
we're going to be putting out, yes, some information to share with the community in a number of ways on how we're coming along with it.
So my question is, in regards to the monthly report that we have to do, if for some apparent reason we don't align in with what we've already said that we're gonna do, and they look at it and it's not matching up, in other words, what is the effect on our part in regards to that, meaning from the district? Will we have to go back and submit some more information? Is there a possibility they would, instead of approving our deficit elimination plan, they would reject it again? How does that work?
What they'll do is recognizing, and we've kind of talked about how it's going to perhaps be, a little bit fluid and fluctuate. Their ultimate goal is to make sure that our bottom line comes in where it's supposed to. We've said we're going to do it a certain way. If certain things happen where it gets out of kilter, we're going to have to make the adjustments. But they're going to be making sure that we're coming to meet the reduction at a consistent rate that will ensure that we'll get where we need to be. If it just gets totally out of whack,
Then we're in trouble.
then, we may have to, go back to the drawing board. But again, they do recognize that this is a plan. And we're going to try to go forward with it and stick to the plan as closely as we can. And if we have to make some modifications in places, we will. But the goal is to get out of deficit. And so that's what our driving force is, to get out of deficit.
So any fluctuation, that you have to explain why? And then they
Yes.
have to either approve that or not, correct?
Yes,
On what
and
you're-
that's what that monthly monitoring is. If there are those fluctuations, we will need to be able to justify why things happened as they did, especially if it's going in the wrong direction. So, the hope will be, though, that we'll be able to go in the right direction at an even more rapid rate than we even thought. Okay. Last week, the high school was able to participate in a presentation, 1,000 Letters. Teresa Irish was with us, and originally they were supposed to be, it was a partnership with the school district, Wayne County Community College District, and the city's library. And they brought Teresa Irish, in, and she came and did a presentation at the library. The second presentation was originally going to be at Wayne County Community College, but our students weren't going to be able to get there because we weren't going to be able to transport them. So they in fact agreed to have her come onto our site. So they were at the high school, and our students from some of our English language arts classes and history classes were able to be there. And she had her book there, and I have a book here. And one of the things that was so exciting was the fact that our students wanted to buy the book. So what we did was we've asked the teachers to find out how many students are interested in the book. And she's agreed to give us a reduced rate on them because we had a number of students who were interested. And the letters were letters that her father wrote to her mother while he was in World War II. And it kind of tells the story. And one of the things it did, it sparked interest in our students to go back and ask their own families if they had, family members who not only were they a part of World War II, but some of the other wars. And we talked about how you communicated, and we had some little conversations about handwritten letters versus texting and some of those kinds of things. But it was very moving. You could see even some of the students getting very emotional as they were talking about, as he talked about being in the foxhole, being near his buddies who were dying around him when the enemy was coming up on him. And she just did a fantastic job of creating the picture so that you really felt like you were really there. And I know, Mrs. Beard, you were there. Were there any things?
One of the things, too, that she talked about, too, that I thought was really neat, she's from Saginaw, and so they're from Michigan. And it wasn't just about World War II veterans. She really talked to the kids about, you should be supporting our veterans, and our veterans do more than just go over and fight a war, that they put their lives on the line, and their families are without them. And and she explained to them, that you should appreciate our veterans in Afghanistan and the ones that are fighting now, as well as our Vietnam veterans, as well as our World War II veterans. That, all veterans should be respected, no matter what war they served in. You should walk up to them and express your gratitude to them. And that, these men and women that are in armed services should be treated with respect because of the jobs that they do for our country and for them and for our freedom. So she not only just talked about the book itself, but, just those kind of respect things also. And I really enjoyed her. She was really good. She's also married to a serviceman that's serving in Afghanistan currently. So I guess she could kind of relate to, the families giving up as well as the veterans. So it was really good. And the kids were wonderful. I mean, there wasn't a peep in the room the whole time she was talking.
Yeah, they were really engaged. And one of the things that was interesting when you talked about her husband, she was talking about how old it was before she got married. And, but she just decided she was going to be herself and she was going to be independent. And then she happened to meet the serviceman in the airport. And then when she talked about, and he ended up being her husband, and the kids just broke out into an applause. So, it was really, really, that showed how engaged they got with her. And so it was really nice, and she seemed to enjoy it, and she was really pleased that she had an opportunity to come and speak to high school students, because some had told her on occasions, you need to talk to high school students. So then she was able to talk to close to 200 of our kids, and so it was really a good opportunity.
And she had a picture display, and she also had poppies for each of the kids and explained what the significance is of the poppy, and explained where the poppy came from, and that she said that there's a poem about it called Flanders Field that's written about the poppy. And so she was telling the kids, that's something that they should go home and look up, and it explains how the poppy came about.
Pass it around.
But this is her book and everything. She had a lot of pictures and stuff, and the kids were all pretty engaged in it.
So it was a real good opportunity, and there was pre-teaching that went on before it, and then we're going to be following up with the students so that they can share with us some of the activities that they did as a result of having participated and being able to talk to her.
If you ever get a chance with the history of that, I had a chance to do a family tree, and I had a relative that dated all the way back to the Civil War that fought in the war in the Michigan Regiment. And when my grandfather passed away, he was in World War I, and I had relatives in World War II that obviously I didn't know, and a brother that served in Nam. But I got a piece of everything. I have a medal from the Civil War that my relative had that served in regiment, and my grandfather's holster in World War I. So it's pretty neat if you have that stuff that you keep and pass it on to your family. It's pretty cool.
And I know for like you and some others who have some of those kinds of artifacts, even to get them in cases or something so that, you know, you can have it intact to pass on is another thing also. But we appreciate the partnership with the library and with Wayne County Community College, and, you know, and our students just, you know, it was a great opportunity for them. Okay.
The next item on the agenda is communications and expressions from the public. And I have 2 sheets right here. I don't know if there's any more. Okay. The first one I have is for Kate Malloy.
Some of you might know why I'm here, but let me just read from this. If you have some questions, you can go ahead and I'll entertain. I'm here tonight to try and convince the school board to give the 3 mechanics tools in their boxes that worked on them for the last 38, 19, and 14 years. The school district bought the boxes 14 years ago, and as you guys know, over the years, tools get broken, lost, not returned, same as your utensils in your drawer. So we bought a lot of them, and we brought a lot of them home to keep everything up and working. And we'd like for you guys to gift them to us if possible. We put a swap meet value, yard sale, flea market value of $500 on them. And hopefully this issue can be voted on tonight, because Johnny's already retired, and Rick and I will be gone on Wednesday. And there will be no one here after that to secure these items. So the Durham people have been in our shop for the last 2 weeks. 3 of them were in there today. They're just using our stuff freely. And so I just thought we could secure them and, you know, make something like that work. We'd appreciate it.
I know I brought that up to the superintendent. Did you get a chance to walk?
Well, I didn't ever get over there, you know, and I was trying to, well, I wasn't sure exactly what tools, you know, and I didn't know if they were some that we had purchased or that, you know, had been purchased by the, you know, our employees or just what. And I never have gotten to get that far down in on the information. Are you gonna be around tomorrow? Okay, maybe we can touch base and see exactly what the pieces are.
Yeah, there's shop tools, but then in our toolboxes are a lot of personal effects, you know, that
Okay.
we use because of specialty tools and what have you. So,
Okay,
the Durham people are required to bring their own, you know, tools, because I filled out an application for it, and unfortunately that didn't work out very well, but, so they're responsible for bringing their own tools, and now that you guys no longer have a maintenance or custodial that you can take the toolboxes over to, you know, I just thought that, you know, it'd be a nice gesture if we could pull something like that off. Give it some thought. And, well, like I said, we're running out of time. Wednesday's the last day, and it's gonna be all new faces down there.
okay, well, if you're around tomorrow.
Oh, I'll be around.
Okay,
Madam Chair, could I comment on that?
Yes, go ahead.
I know I've worked with a lot of mechanics in the past in my trades, and I mean, their tools they probably take a lot of pride in their toolboxes than a lot of other things sometimes, and that's their livelihood. And, you know, these gentlemen have been around a long time. I don't see why there'd be any problem not letting them have, if their own personal tools in the boxes. You know, like Mr. Malloy said, you know, there are shop tools, they understand that, but there are their personal tools, and these folks are unfortunately going to be out of a job, and with these tools, maybe they can find some kind of employment to keep working to support their families and keep their household above water. So I think it'd be a good idea to let them have them.
Yeah, I had to. I know my brother left a mechanic. They gave that as a gift, really. They gave this toolbox over 20-some years and whatever tools he acquired.
so they're personal tools. Okay.
Okay, the next person I have is Sandy Tenney.
I know, in fact, one of the gentlemen, whenever we were working on the deficit elimination plan, and said, we need some PR, we need some more students. I'm not seeing it. I saw this exciting things happening at Belleville High School. This is available throughout our city. They had highlights, a lot of different things. Their ACT scores were higher than the national average. An after-school at-risk program that provides transportation. Athletics now require 2.0 grade point average, higher than required by the Michigan High School Athletic Association. A lot of things like that are going on in Romulus. You know what? Nobody knows about it. Nobody knows. If you were new to this area, this is all over. And every single week, there's 2 free papers that tout Belleville High School. If I were moving or thinking about moving to this area, and I saw all this, where would I be looking? I don't see anything at all about Romulus. We need to get it out there, and we keep saying, yeah, we're going to. You know what? We're not.
There have been some communications that we've been putting some things out, but what is the name of that one?
This one is BellevilleLakeCurrent.com.
Because we got a lot of great press on when we had our anti-bullying display at the high school, even beyond our state. But we're going to try to expand into some others too.
That were presented at the Board of Education meeting, that, an update by administrators, and just like the program that you talked about this evening, the 1,000 letters. Wow. But it can't be just heard by this little group of people.
What was the cost when we used to do the perspective?
I'll have to get that number for you. It was a shared cost, I believe, joint between the,
Because our perspective was
City.
similar to
Right.
that.
Yeah,
The
wasn't it
city.
between the city,
The city
And
and,
the-
And then school, I think you're right on that, Rebecca,
The
yeah.
gentleman in Cogswell came to quite a few of the meetings and said he would be willing to do it for free. He was a PR guy for Taylor. Nobody ever looked him up.
Yep.
Nobody ever said anything to him, and he said, that's what he did for Taylor schools. That's how they passed villages, that's how they got people.
I think I think the major cost that's involved in that is the actual printing and the mailing of it.
I think you wanted to do it on your website, which was gonna be nothing. Actually, with that, or the cable channel, the city runs in cooperation with the schools, but it's always usually just one person's face on it.
Or, we have, get 2 newspapers that, fine. I think
We've-
the one is-
We've had some things in the Telegram,
Yeah.
quite a few
But,
items.
All due respect, that doesn't get out to the
As
citizens
much.
of Romulus.
why don't we reach out to the News Herald?
It's River Rouge and Ecorse area. That's,
I know we had things
Yeah,
in a
we've
little
sent-
paper, but
we've-
since that's
we've
been
s-
online now, a lot of people don't get online because they don't
Right.
print it. But why can't we make a call to the News Herald and track down a reporter, because Romulus is part of the News Herald?
exactly.
And why don't, maybe tomorrow, make a phone call to the News Herald and ask if there's a kind of a beat
A beat
reporter for
person.
Romulus, yeah.
There's also an administration at the city hall. They also have new employees down in the cable area.
Yeah, outreach program.
They are starting to do all kind of Facebook stuff. They are starting to do Twitter. They are starting a whole new program down in the cable area in the mayor's office.
Okay.
And there's a former employee that's now working
Jasmine
over there
Bennett, we
now,
can
so
probably refer it out to.
she's
Jasmine.
really working on that outreach. She'd be a good one, because she's a former graduate of our schools and employee, and now over there working, so a lot of connection, and she's got a lot of energy.
You've got somebody back there with a question. You want to stay for a minute?
If you got a resident that's willing to do the PR for free, my experience has been with papers, you send them something that's ready to fill column inches with no labor, they'll use it. Because every deadline, they're looking for some space fillers, and if you send them a weekly press release, it might not make it every week in every paper, but
Start to
Okay.
come out.
Once you got somebody that's gonna put it together for nothing.
That's what I was thinking, Fair News Herald.
That means zero cost to the school.
And
Okay.
Mr. Rivard is a decent guy to talk to. I've talked to him several times myself, especially on the last millage. He is very knowledgeable on a lot of things, especially with school facts.
Phone number 734-941-2098.
Thank you.
Got it?
Now the whole city's.
Okay, the
Does he
next,
retire early? Can I call him after the board? Okay.
He might still be up if we get out of here early.
the next item on our agenda is questions and concerns of board members. Mr. Kudrick?
Yes, I've got actually two of them. First of all, I know basically, well, Wednesday's going to be our last day for our transportation and department, and, you know, the folks put in a lot of time and hours and years of service, and that's greatly appreciated. But my question is for you, the administration, is when are these folks going to be compensated for all the days that they have incurred, with vacation and sick days? Are we going to treat them like the maintenance and operation office people and pay them 2 weeks later, so anybody that's eligible for unemployment can't get it for a month after they're out of work? Because the maintenance and operation folks had to wait 2 weeks to get the remainder of their days to get paid, and some of them aren't able to apply for unemployment until December 1. I think that's a little, considering we knew when they were going to go. Second off, yep, that'll cover it there.
Mrs. Walls?
I don't have any questions tonight, or anything to say, comments, anything right now.
Okay. Mrs. Crowe?
I would just wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
If people would keep the thoughts and prayers, one of our former students passed away. I was one of the persons on 96 that got struck by the vehicle. And for former students, Ms. Zolke passed away.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if people remember, Ms. Zolke passed away last week, I believe.
It was interesting reading, not to piggyback on Mr. Thied, but it was interesting if you knew Miss Zulke to read her obituary. She graduated college at 16.
Wow.
She taught forever, never married, never had kids.
How many, she had what, they said 35 years? But I thought it was more than that.
Well, anybody who went to Romulus thought Ms. Zulke was part of the school. They all thought the rule was that Ms. Zulke was there, then the school was built around her. But, no, she actually came after the school was built, according to the obituary. But, yes, it was kind of shocking to see it and hear some of the things and facts about her that a lot of people, I know a lot of former students definitely hated even the fact that they seen that name on their schedule, that they would have her class. They started dreading and sweating, cold sweats would appear.
It's been fun reading the stuff on
But
Facebook. I mean, 'cause
it's
been all the
amazing
years
how
of different people
a lot of
commenting.
people for over the years that had her, how they've commented in a positive way. But she was a fair woman, and she had her rules, and there was no deviating from them. Wish
Her
more
and her
teachers were
infamous
like her.
pointer.
And for the record, I did get a B in that class.
You didn't have to be in that class?
And you know, for those that are interested, I don't think her service is actually till December. I don't know if they're going to have a memorial service, but I thought on the Facebook page it was in December.
Okay. And I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Enjoy your families. I also went to the high school. Mrs. Kraut was there, Mrs. Bowles was there also for the academic achievement breakfast for the high school for the students receiving first year, second year, and third year academic achievement letters. And I was pleasantly surprised. There was a large number of students that received their letters this year. So it was a really nice, and the culinary arts department did a wonderful job with the breakfast. They did waffles and muffins and coffee, so they did a really good job. The next item is executive session. I believe there's no action after that, so I need a motion to go into executive session, please.
What's the purpose of the executive session?
Oh, I'm sorry, purpose of the executive session is negotiations.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we go into executive session for negotiation purposes only.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mr. Theed. Roll call?
Mr. Kudrick,
Yes.
Ms. Bowles,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraut,
Yes.
Mrs. Beard,
Yes.
Mr. Theed, yes.
Motion was 5-0.
Are we
And
staying here?
again,
going
there'll
to
be
another
there'll be no action.
Convene out of executive session.
Support. Motion made by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mrs. Kraut, to come out of executive session at 7:23.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kudrick,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowles,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraut,
Yes.
Mrs. Beard,
Yes.
Mr. Theed, yes.
Madam Chair, make a motion, we adjourn.
Support.
I have a motion by Mr. Kudrick, supported by Mr. Theed, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion adjourned 7:24.
Well, you're